Welcome back, guys. JLand Bio here. Today we are going to talk a little bit about population ecology. That is, what factors play a role in the size and the development of populations of organisms. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking. Let's get right down to it. By the end of this video, you should be able to understand how populations change over time. You should be able to explain what happens when a population reaches the carrying capacity, and analyze factors which impact the growth of a population. We have some key vocabulary terms for this video, including population density, immigration, emigration, exponential growth, logistic growth, carrying capacity, limiting factor, and density dependent and independent factors. So let's talk about things that let's talk about changes in a population. You probably heard the term immigration before. That is the movement of individuals into a population, whereas emigration is the movement of individuals out of a population. We also take into consideration birth rate and death rate into this. So we take a look at the graph on the right-hand side. It's really interesting to see the exponential growth, the large amount of growth in the population in just the last 100 years, going from 1927, where we had roughly 3 billion people on this planet, to today, where we've got close to 8 billion people on planet Earth. Now, a large part of this is not necessarily due to immigration and emigration, but rather the advances in technology. Humans are living longer because of greater health care. We have agriculture, which allows for people to be able to eat. We also have advanced medicines, which allow people to survive and live longer. So lots of different things play a role in how a population changes. Now, there are two different types of growth of a population that we will look at. The first one is exponential growth, where the population size increases dramatically. If you take a look in the blue line on the graph, that is exponential growth. The population is very, very rapidly increasing. We also have logistic growth, which is slower growth. And you notice that logistic growth tends to taper out as it approaches K. We'll talk about carrying capacity here in just a moment. Speaking of carrying capacity, that is the maximum number of individuals an area can support indefinitely. So this is very dependent on the amount of resources that are located in a given area. The more resources that are available, the larger the carrying capacity, and so on. Now keep in mind that once a population reaches the carrying capacity, it doesn't just flatline where that's the max we can have. The population can go above and below the carrying capacity, but as it goes above, there are more organisms than resources, so organisms are going to start to die. Whereas if the population goes below the carrying capacity, there are more resources than organisms, so they'll be able to survive and reproduce and repopulate the area. So it can fluctuate depending upon available resources. If resources increase, then the carrying capacity increases, and vice versa. What are some factors that impact population growth? Well, one thing we're going to take a look at is density-dependent factors. That is, factors that are impacted by the size of the population. So an example of that might be food, or water, or shelter. The more organisms that are in a given area, the less likely you are to be able to find food, water, and shelter. If there are fewer organisms, there will be more food available, so you'll be more likely to survive. Density-independent factors do not depend on the size of the population. These include things like weather, climate, geography, those types of things. Regardless of how many individuals are in an area, it does not significantly impact the climate or weather. Those are density-independent factors. They are independent of the density or the amount of individuals in a population. Whereas density-dependent factors are factors that are impacted by the size of the population. We'll explore more of these later on. Wow, that was an incredibly short video. Hey, let's make short the word of the video before we move on. But just keep in mind that a variety of factors can impact the size of the population. We'll look at this in a little bit more detail later on. And that the carrying capacity is the most organisms in an environment can support indefinitely. This can fluctuate depending on available resources and whether the amount of resources changes. Hope you enjoyed this relatively short video, guys. We'll continue this work moving forward over the next couple days. We will talk to you later. This is JLand Bio, signing out.